everyone, and welcome back. We're kicking off today's deep dive with a look at some really interesting developments in Morocco. We were lucky enough to get an interview with Dr. Manar Slimi, who's a leading expert on the region. And wow, her insights are really eye-opening.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to explore how Morocco is really like making waves on the world stage, particularly with all their military advancements.
Right.
And we'll examine what this means for the entire region.
Yeah, it's not just about military power, though.
Right.
It's really about how Morocco is using a combination of political savvy and these strategic partnerships to really boost their influence.
Yeah, that's actually what I found so fascinating. The interview reveals how Morocco has actually managed to strengthen these ties with major global players like the US and France.
Yeah.
All while solidifying their role as a leader in North Africa.
Yeah, and they've done this really strategically by taking a firm stance on issues like the Western Sahara conflict.
Yeah.
So they've managed to influence both regional and international policies, which is no small feat.
It's like they've become the go-to voice in the region, and everyone is listening. But of course, we can't talk about Morocco's rise without talking about their military.
Absolutely. The Royal Armed Forces play just a crucial role in both their national and regional security strategy.
Right.
And they've proven their capabilities time and again.
Yeah. The interview specifically mentions their successful operations against terrorist groups in the Sahel and Sahara regions. So they're not just talking about stability, they're actively working to achieve it.
And the world has taken notice. So this commitment to action has earned them the respect and support of key international allies.
But here's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
You might be wondering, why everyone is making such a fuss about Morocco getting the F-35 fighter jet.
Right.
Well, it signals a major shift in U.S. foreign policy and trust in Morocco as a key partner. It also gives Morocco a huge advantage in terms of air and naval defense.
Exactly. It's a game changer.
Yeah.
The F-35 is one of the most advanced aircraft out there with cutting-edge technology that puts Morocco in a whole new league.
Wow.
Dr. Slimi even suggests that this deal could reshape the entire balance of power in the region.
So it's not just a shiny new toy.
No.
It's a strategic asset that could have major ripple effects.
Absolutely. But it's important to note that Morocco isn't just flexing its military muscle. They're also using this newfound strength to deepen their collaboration with the U.S. in areas like counterterrorism and air defense.
It's like they're saying, we're ready to step up and be a major player in regional security.
Right.
And the U.S. is saying, we're right there with you.
And that partnership goes beyond just the U.S. Morocco has been carefully cultivating relationships with other countries in the region, too.
Right.
Which is crucial for long-term stability.
So they're building alliances,
Yes.
strengthening partnerships, and becoming a real force to be reckoned with. But what does all this mean for other countries in the region?
Well, imagine you're Algeria, watching your neighbor suddenly have this cutting-edge tech.
You'd be scrambling to catch up, right? And that's exactly the dilemma facing many countries in the region.
Yeah.
Morocco's advancements could spark an arms race, but they could also incentivize greater cooperation.
Right.
It really depends on how everyone chooses to respond.
So it's like a high-stakes game of chess.
Exactly.
With everyone trying to anticipate each other's moves and stay one step ahead.
Exactly. And Morocco seems to be playing the game quite well. Their strategic placement, combined with their political maneuvering and military strength, is making them a force to be reckoned with on the global stage.
And all of this from just one interview with Dr. Slimy. It really shows how much insight we can gain from experts who understand the nuances of these complex geopolitical situations.
Absolutely. And it's just the beginning. There's so much more to unpack, especially when it comes to the potential consequences of Morocco's actions. Well, stay tuned, because in the next part of our deep dive, we'll explore the broader implications of Morocco's rise and what it means for the future of the region and beyond. Welcome back, everyone. Last time we were talking about Morocco's growing influence, particularly with all their military advancements.
Yeah.
And how that F-35 fighter jet acquisition is really shaking things up in the region.
Yes, and it's important to remember that this isn't happening in a vacuum.
Right.
Morocco's moves are sending these ripples throughout North Africa and beyond.
Right.
Prompting other countries to kind of reevaluate their own strategies.
Yeah, it's like dropping a stone in a pond,
Yeah.
right? The effects spread out,
Again,
creating these interesting dynamics.
Exactly. And those ripples can lead to both opportunities and challenges.
Right.
For example, some countries might feel pressured to increase their own military spending, potentially leading to an arms race, which nobody wants.
It's like that saying, keeping up with the Joneses. but
Right.
with fighter jets and tanks. That could lead to more tension and instability, not less.
On the other hand, it could also push countries towards greater cooperation.
Right.
If they realize they can't match Morocco's military strength alone,
Yeah.
they might be more inclined to work together, form alliances,
Mm-hmm.
and pool their resources.
So instead of an arms race, we might see the emergence of new partnerships and a more collaborative approach to security.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating dynamic to observe. But it's important to understand that Morocco isn't just relying on military strength. They're also incredibly skilled at what's known as soft power.
Ah, soft power.
Yeah.
So for our listeners who might not be familiar with that term, could
Yeah.
you explain what that means in this context?
Of course. Soft power is the ability to influence others through things like cultural appeal, political ideals, and diplomacy, rather than through force or coercion.
Oh, okay.
So Morocco has been actively cultivating these really strong relationships with countries in the region and around the world through economic partnerships, cultural exchange programs, and political dialogue.
So it's about winning hearts and minds, not
Yeah.
just battles.
Exactly. And it's a strategy that's been very effective for Morocco. They've positioned themselves as this reliable partner, a voice of moderation, and a bridge between different cultures and ideologies.
So it's like they're building this network of friends and allies, which is just as important as having a powerful military.
Absolutely. And this approach has been particularly successful in the Sahel and Sahara regions, where Morocco has played a leading role in combating terrorism and promoting stability.
So their military advancements, including that F-35, are only one part of a much larger strategy. They're not just projecting power, they're using their influence to try to build a more stable and secure region.
And that's something that resonates with other countries who are also facing security challenges. They see in Morocco a model for a more peaceful and prosperous future. It's a fascinating case study in how a country can leverage both hard power and soft power to achieve its goals.
Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit and talk about what this all means for the average person.
Okay.
Why should someone like halfway across the world even care about what's happening in Morocco?
That's a great question.
Yeah,
And it goes back to the idea that we live in an increasingly interconnected world.
right,
What happens in one part of the world inevitably affects other parts.
right.
So the stability of North Africa, for example, has implications for Europe, the Middle East, and beyond.
So it's like a chain reaction.
Yeah.
Instability in one place can create ripple effects
Exactly.
that spread across borders and continents.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to pay attention to what's happening in places like Morocco.
Yeah.
Their actions are not only shaping the future of their own country,
Yeah.
but also influencing the broader geopolitical landscape.
Okay, so Morocco's rise is a story with global implications. It's a story about shifting power dynamics, the importance of diplomacy, and the potential for both cooperation and conflict.
And it's a story that's still unfolding. The decisions made by Morocco and other regional players in the coming years will determine the course of events for decades to come.
Yeah, it's a real-life geopolitical thriller,
It is.
and we're all watching to see what happens next.
Now let's delve a bit deeper into some of the key takeaways from our expert interview with Dr. Slimi,
Okay.
starting with Morocco's unique approach to regional security.
This is where their commitment to a multifaceted strategy really shines.
Yeah.
They're not just relying on military might.
Right.
They're also actively engaging in diplomacy,
Yes.
fostering economic partnerships, and promoting cultural exchange.
It's a holistic approach that addresses security challenges from multiple angles.
Right.
For instance, their counterterrorism efforts involve not just military operations,
Mm-hmm.
but also social and economic programs designed to address the root causes of extremism.
So instead of just reacting to threats, they're trying to prevent them from arising in the first place.
Exactly. And they've been remarkably successful in building strong security partnerships with other countries in the region. They're sharing intelligence, coordinating efforts, and working together to combat shared threats.
It's a recognition that security challenges transcend national borders and that cooperation is key to addressing them effectively.
And this brings us to another key takeaway: the importance of regional alliances.
Yeah.
We've talked about how Morocco's military advancements could potentially lead to new alliances.
Right.
And they're actively working to foster those relationships.
They're strengthening ties with countries like Mauritania, Senegal, and others in the region,
Yes.
recognizing that strength lies in unity.
And these alliances go beyond just security cooperation. They encompass economic partnerships, cultural exchange, and political dialogue, creating a web of interconnected relationships that promote both stability and prosperity.
It's a win-win situation. Stronger regional ties benefit everyone involved.
Exactly. And this is a trend that we can expect to see continue in the coming years.
Right.
As Morocco continues to assert itself on the world stage, their focus on building strong regional alliances will only become more important.
It's a powerful reminder that in today's world, going it alone is rarely the best strategy.
Right.
Cooperation and collaboration are essential for addressing these shared challenges and achieving common goals.
And Morocco is leading the way in this regard, demonstrating the power of strategic partnerships and regional integration.
But even with all this talk of alliances and partnerships,
Yeah.
it's important to acknowledge the potential downsides of Morocco's military rise.
That's an important point. Every action has a reaction.
Right.
And Morocco's moves are bound to generate responses from other players in the region.
Right. We already touched on the possibility of an arms race with countries feeling pressured to beef up their own military capabilities in response to Morocco's advancements.
And that could lead to heightened tensions, increased instability, and even the risk of conflict.
Right.
It's a reminder that even the best intentions can have unintended consequences.
It's like a delicate balancing act.
Yeah.
Morocco's rise could lead to greater stability and cooperation, but it could also trigger unintended escalation and rivalry.
And that's why it's so crucial to consider these potential downsides as we analyze the evolving geopolitical landscape. It's not all sunshine and roses.
So given these potential risks, what can be done to mitigate them? How can we ensure that Morocco's rise contributes to regional stability rather than undermining it?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And there are no easy answers, but one thing is clear. Open communication and dialogue are absolutely essential.
Right. Countries need to be talking to each other, sharing their concerns,
Yes.
and working together to find solutions that benefit everyone involved.
And that requires building trust and fostering a sense of shared responsibility for regional security. It's about moving beyond a zero-sum mentality and recognizing that cooperation is in everyone's best interest.
So it's about thinking long-term and understanding that true security comes from working together, not against each other.
And Morocco, with its strong diplomatic ties and commitment to regional partnerships, is well positioned to lead the way in fostering this spirit of collaboration.
It's a challenging but crucial task. The future of the region may very well depend on it.
And as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, it's important to remember that the geopolitical landscape is constantly shifting.
Right.
What seems certain today may be completely different tomorrow.
It's a world of constant change and unexpected turns, which makes it all the more important to stay informed and understand the forces that are shaping our world.
We'll be back soon for the final part of our deep dive, where we'll explore some of the key questions and challenges that lie ahead for Morocco and the region and what it all means for the future.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We've spent the last two parts really digging into Morocco's rise as a major player.
Yeah.
We looked at their political strategy, their beefed up military,
Right.
and how all of this is causing kind of a stir across North Africa.
Yeah, we've seen how the acquisition of that F-35 fighter jet
Uh-huh.
has really put them on the map,
Right,
and how they're not just about military might,
right.
but also using smart diplomacy and building alliances.
Exactly. But now let's get to the big question that's probably on everyone's mind. What's next for Morocco? What does the future hold for this country that's making such bold moves?
Well, predicting the future is always tricky business,
Right.
but based on what we've learned from Dr. Salami's insights and kind of looking at the current trends, you can at least make some educated guesses.
Okay, so let's put on our forecasting hats here. What are some of the key things that will shape Morocco's path going forward?
One crucial factor is their commitment to economic development.
Okay.
They've been working really hard to diversify their economy,
Hmm.
attract foreign investment, and encourage innovation.
Right.
So think of it like they're building this strong financial foundation that can support their ambitions,
Okay.
including their military expansion and their role in regional security.
So it's not just about having powerful weapons.
Right.
It's about having a strong economic engine to sustain that power over the long term.
Precisely. And Morocco seems to understand this. They're playing the long game here,
Mm-hmm.
investing in both hard power, like their military,
Right.
and soft power, like their diplomacy and cultural influence.
And speaking of soft power, we can't forget about Morocco's efforts in building those strong relationships with countries across Africa, Europe, and the Middle East.
Yeah.
So they're not just flexing their muscles,
Right.
they're extending a hand of friendship and partnership.
And that's proving to be quite effective. Many countries see Morocco as this reliable partner, someone that they can trust and work with.
Right.
And in a region that's often characterized by instability and conflict, Morocco is kind of seen as this voice of reason and a force for peace.
It's almost like they're building bridges